Sit there with the boy information. Slide down. I mean, the theory got around down there.
Jonathan, you ready down there? Good. Jim. Y'all good?
You gonna fly down? Who? You and Amanda and Dan? Yeah? Yeah, I got a meeting, so that's good. Oh, see, one of our cousins died.
All right. All right. Well, welcome. Thank you all for coming. I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors portion of this meeting to order. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt an agenda. Just as a disclaimer, I think
This conference will now be recorded.
I do think this thing is a joint meeting, so right after we come to session, roll over to Jim and let him come to session with the Economic Development Committee. Anybody have anything we want to add to the agenda this afternoon, or this morning? Afternoon, sorry.
No, sir.
All right, what's the pleasure of the board?
So, Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We're going to do it, I'd guess, countless times tonight. Any general public comment? General public comment? All right. Jim, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call the Economic Development Committee meeting to order. And Mr. Secretary, do we have a quorum? All right, I'd like to entertain a motion to adopt our agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oppose? All right, agenda adopted, and we will go ahead and proceed. I'm gonna come on down. I wanna get, you want these? No, I want one with this thing. It's working. Lou. Yeah, it's working. My name's Jim Jewett. I'm a member of the Board of Supervisors, and I chair the Economic Development Committee. I'm gonna start off with trying to, hopefully I don't deflate anybody's expectations. This meeting, I understand on social media, is advertised as a data center siting meeting. Well, let me just clarify that we do not have any data center contract. We're not citing any data center tonight. As you'll see in the data center presentation, we actually, if we wanted to do a data center and we started tomorrow, it'd be 3 to 5 years before it would be up and running. So I wanted to just bring that up and clarify that, but we do have we've done a lot of research on data centers. And one of the things we want to do tonight is try to get some feedback from people. If they want to encourage us to continue that, we'll continue with the research. But do they want us to pursue that, or is it just something that they want us to leave alone? Okay, would you please advance to the next slide? There we go. The Economic Development Committee was actually created last year by the Board of Supervisors. And the intent was, we had two goals. One is we wanted to expand the tax base to keep taxes at a lower level or even possibly reduce them. And we also want to increase the income level for the folks in the county. Just to throw this out, a lot of the conversations that we've had about economic development in this county is that we all know that things are changing. And we've got Albemarle to the south, we've got Culpeper to the north, we've got counties like Rappahannock that border us as well. And the question's always thrown around, well, who do you want to be like? Well, our answer to that is we want to be what Madison wants us to be. And that's the mindset that we've approached this with. But change is here. And we either manage the change or the change is going to manage us. And if it manages us, I can almost guarantee you it won't be anything that you really like. Okay, we focused this year on projects related to technology, logistics, and tourism. And we worked with the Planning Commission also to address some changes in the state code that are quite frankly horrendous to localities. And Mr. Smith will talk about that later and what we're trying to do about it. All the projects that we research, and we're strictly a research committee, they have to comply with the comprehensive plan. Next, please. As I said, I'm the chair. Mr. Buchanan is also on the Board of Supervisors as the vice chair. Tracy Gardner is our Director of Economic Development and Tourism. We also have Mr. Weekly, our county administrator, Mr. Gordon, our deputy county administrator. We have Jim Smith from the Planning Commission, and Ms. Wilshire, Molly Wilshire, is a citizen member. We also are very grateful to the support that we get from other county officials. Mr. Daniel, our Commissioner of Revenue, put a lot into tonight's presentation. He's actually going to be presenting after me. Alan Nichols, our Building and Zoning Administrator, has also been instrumental in helping us put this plan together. And then Ms. Warren, our Director of Finance. Fortunately, we have her, and she corrects all of my mistakes. And I ran all my spreadsheets by her, and we're very fortunate to have her in the county. And then Ms. Turner, our administrative assistant, who the county, I will tell you, if Ms. Turner left, the county would stop. She just seems to pull everything together. So that's a brief introduction. Advance, please. Tonight's program, our introduction and overview, our budget outlook and discussion, data center research, warehouse and logistics research, tourism update, ordinance changes, and then we'll have a conclusion. Okay, this is going to be my part. And I don't mean to, when I go through this, whenever I practice this, it puts me into a depression. So hopefully it won't put you into a depression. But the fact is, folks, that we have reached an inflection point in this county. The way that we have done business is no longer sustainable. We have to not, I would say aggressively, but concertedly approach economic development in a way that will enhance our tax base. If we look at the fiscal years 23 through 25, they were pretty much even. We had average increase in spending of 4.7%, average increase in revenue of 3.6%. However, in fiscal year 26, that will start to diverge, and our spending will grow much more rapidly than our income. And what we did through the projected period, we looked at fiscal years 26 through fiscal year 30. And there are some factors that I left out of my spreadsheet for tonight that we were actually considering. Extraordinary factors. One of those is the possibility of how future collective bargaining will affect our county budget. Well, we know it'll push it up. The other issue is there's always been a lot of talk since I've been on the board about the fire department. What will happen county will have to take over the fire department. What's it going to cost? I spoke with several members of the fire department, and quite frankly, their opinion is that probably in this period, FY26 through FY30, there's probably not going to be any significant changes in the department's operations. One of their big concerns, though, is with money is the cost of equipment. Mr. Gordon, what is the cost now of a new fire engine?
Right now, a new engine is running about 1.4, whereas in 2018 it was about 800,000.
Okay, that's the kind of stuff. In the county, rescue squads are now 505,000 apiece, and that's a huge jump from the last 5 years. So these are some things that could be on the horizon. I will tell you that if I had left those projections in, and I didn't, mainly because with the fire department we didn't really have a definitive timeline or cost, and also the same thing with possible collective bargaining. But I will tell you that if they were left in a worst case scenario, our taxes would at least double. So these are some things that we need to look at because it's on the horizon, and we need to correct it now before it gets to be a problem that would basically push us into a situation where we would be like a Rappahannock County where only the wealthy can live here. A quarter of our population is age 65 or older. Almost half of our population are working poor or lower on the socioeconomic scale. We can't have taxes get away from us. Next slide, please. Okay, we collect taxes to provide and other revenue to provide our local services. The two biggest expenditures for localities, of course, are public education and public safety. Our goal is to do this as cost effectively as possible. Property taxes are the largest source of local income from county taxpayers. And last year, we began and completed in 2025, January 2025, reassessment of real estate values. This is a state mandated process. We just didn't say we want to do it. The state mandates it. And it resulted in an average of about 53% increase in properties. Now, under the state law, you cannot have an automatic tax increase through reassessment. You have to equalize the rate down to where you would pull in basically the same revenue that you did before the reassessment. So what we did was we had to find the equalization rate. It ended up being 49 cents. And that was down from the pre-assessment rate of 74 cents per hundred of assessed property value. Next slide. Considering the pressing needs that we had this year, the board did raise property taxes from 49 cents to 51 cents. Even with this increase, Madison's property tax rate is the second lowest in our surrounding area, only beaten by Culpeper with all its data center money. If we had raised the rate in accordance with inflation over the last 5-year period, which is about 26%, the new tax rate would be 61 cents. So we've tried to push back on tax increases by keeping our spending under control as much as possible. Now, one thing that we had to do, and we really don't want to do this, but we didn't have much of a choice, we did have to take on some additional debt to do some financing for capital improvements. And we're going to need to take on about $4 million. And that's going to cover the capital improvements for the school system and for the county. Okay, next slide, please. If we look at the sources of revenue for our budget, you'll notice that 54% comes from us, or the locality. If you look up there, revenue from the Commonwealth is about 37%. Now, the biggest chunk of that is the school fund. They put in about $12.5 million in FY26 for the school system. Up there, the federal government, a smaller amount but significant. They put in this, in the next budget year, we're looking at about, I think, around $2 million into our the Virginia Public Assistance Fund. That's the SNAP program, subsidized housing, Medicaid, and they also put in almost $1 million into the school budget. Now, this is another one of those things that we need to be conscious of. Those sources, the state and the federal, you cannot depend on them. And what's going to happen, I was in a meeting about a week and a half ago with Senator Kane. And he told us that based upon initial projections, the state government is going to have to replace funding for about 200,000 SNAP residents, eligible SNAP folks in Virginia. We're also looking at reformulation of Medicaid spending, and most people don't realize, but 2/3 of the Virginia state budget is Medicaid spending, and that's common across the entire United States. So as those things change, I think it's more probable that we will lose funding from higher sources than increase funding or even keep it level. Next slide. Okay, first question is, well, why don't you cut spending more? Well, all of us sitting on that board are spending hawks. And we cut, and we cut, and we cut. We reached the point this year we couldn't cut anymore unless you want to start laying off teachers and emergency personnel, because that's really what we hit. We hit the floor. And we had original budget requests of over 12%. After major cutting, we got that down to about a 5.8% increase. But there's things that influence spending beyond our control. Inflation, our state and federal mandates. We have many contracts, like with the trash service and other things that have automatic yearly escalation clauses in them. We also now have a fully operational emergency communication system after completion of the Etland Tower. That's now an extra $347,000 in annual maintenance, plus it has an accelerator. The good thing about that, though, is, Mr. Gordon, how did that improve our coverage?
We went from approximately 60% coverage to 95.
So it was definitely something that we need. I mean, public safety is just something that's really unquestioned. You have to do that. That's one of our fundamental functions. The current trajectory of spending is going to accelerate. This is where our spending goes, and this includes all of the revenue that we get local, state, and federal, and this is how it's dispersed. Half of it goes to the school system. About 20% goes to public safety. That's things like the sheriff, the EMS, and the operations center, communications center. Health and welfare, 13%. But public safety and public education are the two priorities for localities. Next, please. All right. What we started doing last year was running a simple time series regression model on projected spending and revenue over a rolling period. And we took fiscal years 24, 25, and now this year 26, because we did the budget, and we ran the regression on it, and we projected at 4 years to FY30. Now, this model is fairly accurate because last year, first year we ran it, this year's budget was projected. We only missed this year's projected budget, actual budget, by less than 0.2%. So the model works fairly well, and I'm fairly confident that this is going to indicate to a large degree where we're headed. If you look over there on that far column to the right where it says 1 penny, the deficit, which is beginning in fiscal year 26, we divide that by $285,000 because that equals to 1 penny of revenue if you're using per 100 value. So if you notice the deficit is increasing, we're dividing that by the 285,000, and at our current trajectory, assuming that nothing changes, we're just doing things like they've always been, we could end up with a 24-cent increase in our property tax rates by FY30. So that means we're going from 51 cents to 75 cents. Does that have to happen? Is that likely to happen? This is probably a fairly predicted model, but it doesn't have to happen if we do what we need to do to avert this problem. Okay, next slide. This just gives you a graphical indication of how we are, spending is the orange line, the blue line is the revenue line. You can see that they are diverging over time, and the bottom gray line is the deficit trend, which is up. Next slide, please. This is what I like to show people because this is how it really affects your pocket. And I used this when we were doing the tax adjustment earlier this year after reassessment. If I take a 1,300 square foot home, valued at $329,400. A new tax, if we go from 51 to 75 cents per hundred, by FY30, that tax is going to go from 2471. It's going to go from 1680 to 2471. That's a huge jump, and many people just are not going to be able to afford to do that. So putting it in the perspective of a homeowner, I think really drives home these numbers a lot more than just showing them on a spreadsheet or a chart. Okay, I think we go on to the next set. Now, Mr. Daniels has been very nice. He's our Commissioner of Revenue. He's worked with us closely on this, and he's going to talk about the various taxes. And one of the things that I think is really important about his presentation is he's going to show us how much particular classifications of business that you bring into the county can contribute to our revenue. So I'm going to turn it over to him.
Thank you, Mr. Jewett. As Mr. Jewett displayed, the revenue source is definitely a big need. We'll take a look at some of the different types of revenue sources we have, mainly business and residential here in Madison. So some of the industry, agriculture and forestry, make up the majority of Madison County. Office, retail, tourism, manufacturing, light industry, professional, scientific, and technical services. Obviously, there's a lot of other industry. We're very diverse outside of the agriculture and forestry. So that's a good thing, that we are diverse and we're not reliant on one specific industry. Some of the local taxes that are assessed: business tangible property, machinery and tools, merchants capital, real estate taxes, sales and use, meals tax, transient occupancy, and most recently cigarette tax. Business tangible property, that's businesses file annually by May 1st. They report their furniture, fixtures that are used in the course of the business, computers, etc. It's depreciated down, and then we assess it at a rate of $3.10 per $100 of assessed value. Merchants capital tax, that's inventory, stock on hand, so your retail businesses, their goods that are sold at 86 cents per 100, and that is their cost. Real estate tax, obviously, businesses participate in real estate taxes just like any landowner in Madison, 51 cents. Sales and use tax. So we all know it's 5.3 if you go purchase something at a retail shop or online. 5.3%, 4.3 goes to the state. We retain we receive back 1%. Around 1.7 million is what we get annually out of your purchases, whether that be at a brick and mortar store here in Madison County, or if you purchase it and have it delivered here to your residence in Madison County. So if you shop online, if you made that purchase and it's delivered to your house, we are receiving the 1% back from the State Department. So typically, if we analyze that data, typically 30%, right now we're around 30% of online sales, with the remaining 70% here at brick and mortar stores. Just a little caveat, Virginia does administer the sales tax. They keep about 0.33% for administering that tax. Meals tax 4%. So anybody that goes out to eat, we do have a better restaurant industry. Food trucks have become more popular as of recent, and you know, of course, we'll get the 4%, or Madison receives 4%, around 740,000 generated this past year. Transient occupancy tax, again, an industry that's kind of taken off since in the more recent years. That's overnight lodging, camping, 5%, around 400,000 annually was generated. Cigarette tax, again, I mentioned that was just recently adopted. It's administered by the Blue Ridge Cigarette Tax Board that we participate in, and that's at 40 cents per pack. That has dwindled. I believe cigarette sales are obviously dwindling. You know, some people attribute that to vaping and other recreational activities. Let's take a look at some of the types of businesses. These are no specific business here in Madison County, but I did want to give examples of what a business may look like. We have large retail there at the top. So the number over on the right-hand side where you see total, the top number would be the assessment number, and the bolded number is the amount of tax revenue that was generated. So if we're looking at that large retail business, it's around $40,000 annually. So just so that as a layman you can understand what a business out there in the county is going to contribute to Madison's revenue. If we look at a trade type business, $5,500 approximately. Large manufacturer, we're dropping down there, $666,800. And then we look at a accommodation provider. Those are the Airbnb, VRBO type providers. Can provide around $400. So this is the actual total of Madison's assessment towards business property, merchants capital, computer and heavy construction machinery and tools. We have 777 accounts. That does not mean there's 777 businesses. Probably the 678 would give you a better indicator because multiple businesses could be assessed in multiple classes there. So that 678 is going to give you a better number at what we're looking at. So again, generating $1.1 million annually. We can look at the real estate side. Real estate side, about 7.9. Again, Mr. Jewett mentioned that the real estate does make up the majority of our revenue. I'm sorry, if you want to go back on. I did include the ag and forest, so those large tracts of land, and I included this in when we're looking at our business type real estate. Okay, sorry. Just to wrap things up, there are some other lines of businesses that we collect revenue from. Public service, that would be your electric line, telephone line, cell towers, etc. Around $350,000. Bank franchise tax, that's a tax to banks for the cash on hand annually, $157,000. Consumer utility, that tax is generated from the users of electric companies. So each one of us that live here, $378,000. Communications tax, same thing. If you're speaking on that cell phone or that landline, you're administered a tax, $43,000. So here with this pie chart, I kind of wanted to break it up just to give you a visual. The blue area is business, the taxes that are generated generally from a business in the green area. So again, it's a big concern. Where do we want that? Do we want that pie to shift? Do we want to try to maintain it? Or where do we want that to go? So again, that's a great discussion to have. Please reach out if you have any questions.
Would you stay there, Brian?
Sure.
Any questions about this section? When we're done this evening, we will have an open, see what I mean about the county? We'll have a question and answer session after each module. This is the first one, and then at the end, we're going to have an open question and answer session because we do want to get feedback from you guys. So any questions for this section? Yes, ma'am.
How does our transient and the glamping kind of tax that we have, how does that compare with other counties around us?
That's a great question. I would have to do some more research and follow up with you to compare that specifically towards other counties.
Mm-hmm. And one thing, Brian, don't we, the TOT tax we collect, a third of that actually is transferred to the general fund, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
No. Yes, correct.
Okay.
You're right. A third, and then 2/3 goes to, 3/5 goes to transient or tourism promotion.
Okay. All right, if there's no more questions, we will proceed on to data centers. Judd, you want to come on down?
No, I'm just
Okay, well, I'll come back up there too.
Okay. So, when you first blush, first glance, data centers seem to be a great answer for a community that needs to bring in money to pay for services and what we've come to expect here at Madison. That's the first glance. So we started looking at these things, thinking we could put one small building, data center in Madison, and reap the benefits from that. And, you hear all these fantastic numbers, which we'll get into. But what did we learn? So we spent many hours. We've talked to multiple industrial experts. We have done hours of research. We visited and toured a state-of-the-art facility in Manassas that we'll talk a little bit more about. And one of the first things we learned is nobody's going to invest the money or the time to come in and put one building. They're all talking campuses. They want 5 or 7 large buildings. They're 500,000 square feet, up to 500,000 square feet. And the power that you need to generate for that, the cooling and the water you need for that. We learned a lot of things that Madison probably just won't fit the bill for these big companies. But let's go a little bit further on some of the things we learned. We needed 230 kVs in the county, power-wise, to run a campus. We don't have 230 kV. I think a few years ago they were talking about putting them in here, and it never happened. We have one area that can be converted to 230 with a lot of money and a lot of study and a lot of pain, and that could come into the Pratt station from the south. That's just not going to happen. It's going to take years and years to do. I learned there's 3 types of data centers. There's the hyperscalers, which everybody that's on Facebook and learned about this meeting, everybody that goes home and watches a Netflix movie, those are the hyperscalers. They own the whole building. They own all the racks in that building. So that they control everything going on in that building. So that's a hyperscaler. Then what the next down the road is like our small and medium-sized businesses. They're going to rent racks in one of these large buildings. So you're going to have, you might be one rack for your business, and you're going to rent that rack and you're going to lease it for 10 years. So it's all different businesses in that one building. And the third type that we're going to talk about tonight is a micro or edge data center. These improve latency that the big data centers don't have. So they put them on the edge of populated areas. They put them in rural areas. They put them in not the number 1 big cities, but the number 2, 3, 4 size cities to improve that speed of getting the data that you need. What are these used for? They don't use a lot. They're not used for storage as much as they're used for telemedicine and the ability to do real-time diagnostics. E-commerce, so when you're taking a payment and from online and you're sending out whatever you're selling, you're going to use one of these type of micro-edge data centers. Also, robotics and even driverless cars. So you don't want some latency happening when you're going down the road and you have your Tesla and it's telling you that you need to take a left and it's going to take 2 seconds before that gets that information and you're in trouble. So these smaller data centers are used for those real-time situations. They don't need as much power. It's one other thing we learned. So next slide, please. I'm sorry, what? Next one. So I talked about that, and then the next one, right here. Yeah. Go back. Okay, we talked about that in the next one. One of the other things that I learned, we'll go about this. So power source of data, we talked about the 230. Madison only has 115, we talked about that. The cooling system employed in a data center, they use 1 million gallons of water per day. That's in the heat of the summer, right? That could change in the winter, in the fall, in the spring. But that's a lot of water coming. That could be wastewater. It could be brown water. It could be coming out of artesian wells. So that's something that people are worried about, and you're right to be worried about that. There's also the data center that we toured in Manassas was a closed loop system. And that uses a glycol system, kind of like your cars, that used to cool your car. So it's closed loop. It's not using the water that we're talking about here. We went into that building and we're doing this tour, and we walked up to the building and it was quiet as a church on a Saturday. It was just, you could walk in, you wonder where's all this noise that people talk about? It just wasn't. They are very quiet. Next slide. Revenue. So each one of these buildings, or if they do a campus, the numbers are all over the place. You can go from 2 to 7 million per building. So if we did a 5-building lot, you could see what that would bring into the county. But if the government agencies take that rack space or own those racks and own those servers, we can't tax that. So all we would get is a real estate tax on that land. We wouldn't get the equipment tax that comes with that, which is where that money comes from. So I don't know how you would stop a government agency from renting racks in your facility. So that's more research needs to be done with that. Employment can be significant. People think there's only 4 people in these data centers. It's not true. The one we toured had 120 people in that one building. And that's everybody from security to the cleaning crews to the people that run the IT, the HVAC people, all those people that are in that building is up to 120, and they're 24/7. So it's a pretty significant job creation for our county if we were to go something with that. And the pay is good. It's not low pay. These people are making 6 figures, a lot of them. Next slide. So the pros we're talking about was the job creation, tax revenue, infrastructure improvements for the county, economic diversification. One thing I did learn about using ChatGPT, like one query. So if you just went to ChatGPT and you want to find the population of Ireland today, and you use ChatGPT, that one query will power a 60-watt light bulb for 3 minutes. And then how many queries are there a minute in the world for just ChatGPT? It's 1.7 million per minute. So that's a lot of power. That's a lot of energy. We can't stop it. It's going to happen. These data centers are going to be built. We can stop them from being built in Madison, or we can try to limit how they're built. But that's one of the things I learned that was really eye-opening for me. Madison County has a natural gas pipeline running through it. One of these smaller micro centers we talked about could use that, along with certain like solar power batteries to help mitigate how much electricity is being used in that building. CBRE did a study that showed that every job created by a data center creates an average of 7.4 ancillary jobs in that area. So that can be anything from your local contractors to your restaurants to your hotels. It creates jobs, so they do create jobs. I'm trying to give you both pros and cons here. The cons, we said earlier, is the high water use. Maybe we can mitigate that by using the glycol. Environmental risks. What happens if there's a leak from that glycol? So how do you mitigate that? Long-term uncertainty about AI. I don't know if there's really uncertainty about it. I think it's going to be around for a long time. Will it ever be replaced? The horse and buggy was replaced. The horse whip industry was replaced with a car. You know, the cars are being replaced every day now. So those things could go away. The other thing I learned, for every dollar of tax revenue received from a data center, the county spends about 4 cents to support that. For just a typical business, they're spending 25 cents to support that. So there's savings there. Next slide. So what do we want to do? We're asking the public, do you want us to continue down the road of maybe the micro center? We definitely don't want to do one of the big campuses, but is there a place in our county for a smaller micro center that might fit into a building the size of the old lace factory or one of those type of buildings? It's just something we need to do more research on, but I think if we were to do more research on data centers, that's the direction we would head. This meeting is just to see if there's any interest in doing that. We haven't talked to any data center companies. No investors have come to the county. None of that. We just were out there getting information for a way to help pay our bills here at the county. Do you have anything to add?
No, just to follow on what Judd said, one of the issues too now we're starting to see, there is a pushback by localities that have these data centers. But data center companies aren't pushing as hard either. And if you look at Northern Virginia with its, Loudoun County, for example, I think has 120 data centers with another 117 in the pipeline. Many of these data centers are sitting empty because they don't have the power. They're running now almost 4 gigawatts of power in data centers in Northern Virginia. Right now, they would need 11 gigawatts to power all of those data centers that have been built. Now, if you think about it, Northern Virginia's power consumption for data centers is more than the next 4 countries combined. If you go to Singapore, you go to Tokyo, Japan, you go to London, England, you go to Germany, they don't use as much power as Northern Virginia. You know, 2/3 of the world's daily internet traffic passes through Northern Virginia. So if you're in the long-term consequences for us, whether we do this or not, is that there are some projections that these things are going to run our electric rates up by 70% and probably suck up half of the power in Virginia consumed in Virginia. So that brings us back to another local issue. If we wanted the 230 kV loops in here, we would actually have to do a study. I think it's, what, $161,000 a county would have to fund. And then you have to have a data center company say, hey, look, we want to build a data center in Madison. They would go to REC and say, start the process saying, okay, this has got to be the planning. We're going to basically pay for most of it, and we'll get our money back over time. And the downside to that is that I know that 2 data center developers told us flat out, if they did that, they're not stopping with on data center campus. They're just going to keep going because, you know, they look at Madison, it's relatively cheap land, and a supervisor from Loudoun County, I hate to repeat the statement because it's somewhat blasphemous, but he said, you know, remember, these data center companies have more money than God. When they get in, you can't stop them. And I know that one of the things that Loudoun's trying to do is they're trying to throttle them back now. It used to be by right on industrial zone land in Loudoun, and that was a huge mistake because they couldn't stop them. So if we did go down the path of data centers at some point in time, we would have to make sure that our zoning policies were in place that we could have some semblance of control. But again, money talks, so that's one of the downsides. I think that the edge data center is probably something more suitable. Ironically, that's what we were looking at. That's what we thought we were doing in the first place. There is an edge data center in Harrisonburg. It's 49,000 square feet, and I think it's running a 20-megawatt substation. So these are some things that would be possible in Madison. We would get some revenue. You're not going to get $2 million out of it, but you could get significant revenue, and it would not have a large effective footprint in the county that would disrupt our way of life or our power grid or our land values, hopefully. So I just wanted to add that, Judge. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Jill Glasspool Malone. I just want to speak to the power issue. You know, a simple AI search brings up that these data centers by 2030 are going to be rolling out small nuclear reactors. And by 2035, which is, you know, less than a decade now, they're saying a fleet of small nuclear reactors is going to be powering pretty much all the data centers around. So if you're talking about data centers, you're also talking about having these nuclear reactors, which are, you know, experimental in nature at this point. They've never been brought online anywhere in the world. So that's just another thing to consider, is the energy usage is going to change dramatically and what's powering it in a very short time.
I don't know that I need the microphone since I talk loud anyway. Is it not working? Okay. I don't know everybody here. My name's Clint Hyde. I've met a lot of you all. I have been the proprietor of Madison Gigabit Internet, which is kind of now going out of business, unfortunately. But I am starting a data center project to build a second one in Harrisonburg. Since you mentioned the first one, which is QTS Data Systems there, yeah, I know who that is, and I've seen their campus. I don't think they want me coming in and looking around, however. But I have also thought about the possibility of, could that be a thing done here in Madison? And the issues you've mentioned are good ones. For example, there simply isn't enough power here to do it on the scale of the campuses in Northern Virginia. Now, if I were going to do that here, I would look at either the old general store, which is a garbage building and would have to be dynamited and replaced 100% before it would be feasible. But the box in, box out location is not bad. And an advantage for both those things is they're right next to 29, where there is a enormous amount of data fiber, which these things want to use. So you can't get too far off of Route 29 to do it without running another cost up of bringing a mountain of fiber to another location. There isn't water here, I can tell you right off the bat, which was why I wouldn't try and do anything big. There isn't water here to support one of these things. You would, as was being mentioned, have to use a local closed loop system. What we're talking about doing in Harrisonburg is to use an ex-rock quarry that has become full of water and has an enormous amount of water in there, it's about a half mile from the building that we're working with right now. So there is a captive water source, which may still even be a closed loop system. I wouldn't use dirty water because then you've got to deal with all the filtration mechanism, and that is its own headache at the same time. But making something that's small can be, and reusing an existing building. So in Harrisonburg, we're talking about an existing building. It's 14,000 square feet. The general store here, if I recall correctly, is 18,000 square feet. I'm not sure about box in. It's probably in that same ballpark. And those are the only places I would go. I wouldn't build a new location because, as was mentioned, if you get somebody who wants to build something big, they want to build a lot of big. And then Madison becomes Loudoun version 2 with data centers all over the place. And again, we don't have the power and we don't have the water to deal with it. So I find it unlikely that anything on that scale happens, maybe ever, and not in our lifetimes, certainly not in my lifetime. So to go forward and do any of this, I think you reusing an existing building is the correct approach because you don't have to fight a whole lot of construction needs. It's already there. You may bring in a little bit of power. The building we're working with in Harrisonburg has only 250 kilowatts in the building right now, but there is 10 megawatts available. Again, just down where the water is, right past that, a substation, like we have a substation here, although not the same size as the one at Pratt's there. And we think we can get 10 megawatts out of it. And I would not personally want to build any larger than that just because then you're trying to compete with Northern Virginia, and that would be a nightmare. And as was mentioned, would take years to get construction completed and have an operational thing, whereas I think I can do this in a matter of months, actually, by not trying to be huge. And I would agree, I doubt that it's possible here or that we would want anything like that to happen in Madison. If any of y'all want to talk about how this goes with me, I would be happy to discuss it. You will have gotten a different set of data that I would be more than happy to add to from the people and operations in Northern Virginia and such like, anytime. So that's all I need to say.
This gentleman wants to speak.
My name is Dr. Robert Malone. So Culpeper is going to have this stuff come in. It's already happening, right? They're building it out. Some of it's federal, I think. That's going to, we're already seeing the boom in housing there. Calling it housing is a little stretch. High density. We live in Madison County and think that we've found paradise. We're amazed that this little pocket right here has maintained, in the face of all that's going around it, this amazing charm, this healthy, diverse community, as was mentioned. Yeah, we have a lot of poor folks. We got a lot of working folks. We got a lot of agriculture. We have a lot of recreation up in the hills. This county is charmed. It seems to me that the opportunity is to provide services, recreation, things which will attract those poor souls that are going to have to work in those little tiny boxes north and south of us, because they're going to want to get out of town. They're going to want to buy property. Those folks that are making six-figure salaries are gonna wanna have a nice little 5, 10 acres, 20 acres here in Madison County. And it seems to me the play is, yeah, that's gonna happen. Let it happen there. I'm not saying not in my backyard, but let's think about how we can build services and infrastructure that will allow those folks to access what we have, that'll make, we talk about recreation, that'll make it possible for us to maintain the character of this amazing little pocket of the world, without having to go to that industrial, a brutalist architecture, concrete, mausoleum structures that we see all north of us. That's my point of view here. Is there's, if data centers are such a great deal, then they're sustainable, they're going to be a great deal 10 years from now. Let them take the risk. Let them invest in first generation micronuclear. Let them take the risk associated with closed loop systems. Let them build their little townhouses to support the folks that are going to be working at 30, 40,000 a year, 50,000 a year. And let's try to preserve what we have here, and enhance it in terms of focusing on our recreation activities, businesses, restaurant and hotel, things that people, I mean, when I drive around in this county, there's all kinds of areas back in the hills that are ripe for development. And we see the wineries exploding. Let's try to maintain what we have. And if it means, I'm sorry to say, if it means I have to pay a little more taxes, I hear people bitching about taxes in this county, and I say, well, why don't you take a trip up to New Jersey and talk to some of those folks? So it couldn't be a lot worse. And I think we need to preserve this little bit of paradise that we have. And, an hour and a half from D.C., I don't think there's any place in the world where you can live in a place like Madison County and be within an hour and 15 minutes of one of the great airports in the world. I travel a lot. It doesn't exist. This is a special place. Let's not lose it. That's my point of view.
Okay, thank you. Gentleman in the back, Kim. There's a gentleman back there.
My name's Robert Wright II. I've lived in Madison for the past 9 years. I come from Culpeper. I come from Fauquier before that. Why do you think Fauquier doesn't want a data center there? They kicked them out. Do not let that happen. Culpeper's already got 3, the third one going up. I've worked at data centers. I'm run a loader operator. That's what I do. I've been to the one in Manassas across from SW Rogers for the past year and a half. Before that, it was Copperhead, right on the edge of 28, across from the brewery. Iron Mountain, in between the two. There's way too many of those things going up. They're ugly. You're trash. We can't handle it. All the trash that comes out of there, the one in front of SW Rogers, every 2 days, they take 7 dumpsters away. 7 dumpsters. You're not going to be able to handle that at all. The traffic that comes in, those companies are going to hire who they want. They have contracts with E.E. Reed. E.E. Reed have contracts with Anderson. Anderson has contracts with Hopke Construction. That's who I used to work for. I work for E Contracting now. Like Doc said, keep it beautiful here. This is a sweet place. My wife and I sit there, look out the front porch. We see mountains, just nice fields of grass. I like to keep it like that. That's why we moved out here. Didn't like Culpeper. I grew up in Fauquier, but I moved to Culpeper, lived there for about 25 years. Used to be able to go through one end of town to the other end of town in like 10 minutes. Now it takes you 45 minutes just about. Don't let it get that. You know, data centers is going to bring all kinds of work, yeah, but for out-of-staters. Extreme Steel is one of their big people that build the data centers. They have people come from Texas, Ohio to work. Do you have it in writing that they're going to give us 100 jobs inside the data unit? So they won't hire, they will hire who they want to. They have their own little people that clean up, you know, just like any of us that have, you know, businesses. You have your little person that, hey, I'm getting him to do this. I'm getting him to do that. They're not going to hire us to go in there and do anything. It upsets me. It really does. Because I love this place. I love Madison. Don't let any data centers come in. Because like you said, once you let one in, that's it. You're done. Culpeper let one in. Now there's two. Hit just about finished with one, and they're building the one across 29 and Route 3 from the old one. So I wouldn't let them in. Like Doc said, I'd rather pay higher taxes. I really would.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Lady down here, please.
Hi, I'm Dana Squire, live here in Madison. I was thinking about this. I really appreciate all the work you guys are doing and this presentation. It's really very informative. And in the spirit of data centers, I thought I would ask AI a question, knowing that I'm probably using 8 to 10 times more power getting this answer than if I did a simple Google search. But I asked AI, is there a marketing advantage to being the only municipality without data centers in an area surrounded by data centers? And I got a pretty good answer. Yes, while data centers bring significant economic benefits in terms of tax revenue and some job creation, being an outlier can position the municipality as an attractive alternative for several reasons. One, environmental preservation. Data centers have a considerable environmental footprint, consuming vast amounts of energy and water, generating noise and light pollution, affecting air and water quality. A municipality free of data centers can market itself as an environmentally conscious choice, appealing to individuals and businesses, prioritizing a cleaner and quieter environment. Two, quality of life. Residents in communities with a high concentration of data centers often face concerns about impacts on their quality of life, including visual blight from large industrial buildings and potential health risks associated with diesel generator emissions. Municipality without data centers could highlight its commitment to preserving a desirable living environment, potentially attracting residents seeking a more rural or natural setting. Three, tourism and recreation. Regions densely populated with data centers might experience diminished appeal for tourism and outdoor recreation due to industrial landscapes and environmental concerns. A municipality resisting data center development can leverage its preserved natural beauty and rural character to attract tourists, hikers, and outdoor enthusiasts, offering a stark contrast to surrounding areas. And four, local character and identity. Some municipalities might find data center development conflicting with their established local character or desired development trajectory, particularly if they prioritize agricultural preservation or maintaining a historic aesthetic. By avoiding data centers, a municipality can reinforce its commitment to preserving its distinct identity, appealing to residents and businesses valuing that specific character. To accomplish these objectives, the municipality needs a robust strategy to attract other industries and businesses that align with its chosen identity and can still provide economic growth and opportunities for its residents. And I realize that's what your committee is all about, but that's what AI has to say about it.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please speak up.
Mike Sharman. I just love our founding documents, and I love when you want it to. So to eat the microphone. So July 3rd kicked off our 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. And if you're a corporation, you look first to your articles that created it, and then you look at your bylaws, which tell you what you're to do and how you're to organize. So declarations are our articles. Constitutions are bylaws. There's no place on earth that has more of the intersection of those two than Madison County. You know, Orange might claim some, Culper might claim some, Washington, D.C. may ruin some, but Madison's it. You know, if we look at what we have, which is history and beauty, agriculture, I mean, if you really focus on developing for a long term our resources of those things, our history, our agriculture, our natural resources, tourism is what's been mentioned, we'll have the sustainable growth that will keep our children here. Supervisor Jewett, I think in your economic development plan, I think you had mentioned how many people in Madison work elsewhere and the age of our county. Our county is an elderly county. We need to keep our kids and keep our resources and promote our history. You know, we hear, you just turn on top of the hour anywhere you are in the United States and listen to the problems of erosion of our government system or erosion of our confidence in it. Even when it is working, we may not have confidence in it. So if we can be, you know, Dr. Malone had mentioned this is what a paradise this is that we have. We need to realize that. You know, we need to understand how valuable what we have is wanted by others. I was just down in Dallas doing a mediation. In fact, we just got back a couple hours ago. And they said, well, where do you live? I said, well, I'm 90 miles south of D.C., about 45 miles up of Charlottesville, and, you know, 60, 90 miles from Richmond, however you want to measure it. And that sort of, you know, well, that sounds good. I said, well, I'm right near Montpelier, James Madison's home. I'm right above Monticello, Thomas Jefferson's home. We have Zachary Taylor's birthplace, no home there left anymore. We're right near Woodrow Wilson's home in Stanton. Mount Vernon is just a short drive from us. That got, wow, you are in the center of it all. What did you say?
I said you forgot the Shenandoah Park.
Oh, yeah. But this is, you know, if we put the research you did is very necessary. I mean, you have to know what you're going to choose to do or not to do. And you have to do good research to do that. If we really look at what footprints have come through Madison County, and not just people walking through, but what history walked through, and then put it on signs everywhere. Okay, so we have the steel signs that are silver and red, or silver and black. But what about on every road sign? What about really focusing on it? What about at the entrances to the county having visitor centers? I mean, there's all sorts of things we can do. You might put a historical sign down at Kriglersville, longest underused former school in the nation. But thanks anyway, thanks for y'all doing this town hall, it's great.
Hi, it's Albert of Etlin. I really don't care if you get a data center or not, but I'm with Jim. I'd rather pay low taxes, and I don't mind driving by that data center on 29 in Culpeper. It sits there, there's no smoke, no pollution, it just sits there. So within the past year, I just learned that they take a lot of electricity. So my real point is, let's have more nuclear power. Let's research thorium nuclear. And as far as experimental small nuclear power plants go, they've been on submarines and aircraft carriers for decades. So let's do nuclear. It should be electricity should be so cheap that I wouldn't even think about throwing wood in a wood furnace. Just turn up the thermostat. So we need lower taxes. Next.
Yeah, my name is Peter Rice, and I actually was on a study group that put together the draft of the comprehensive plan for Madison. And that plan, it's hard to, at least from what I remember of the sense that this county is so well known and so special because of the open space, the history that's been alluded to, the people, the values, the character of this area. It just seems that data centers do not fit in. And the edge data center, I mean, maybe, I think it's just a bad idea because that opens it up. And I think you're going to find, the gentleman back there says that once the doors open, you're in trouble. The gentleman here, I'm not sure, I'm with Box and Box Out. Are you talking about the Liberty Lace, the old one right on 29? Yeah, we're actually now on the old Plow North Distribution Center. But anyway. Pardon me? On 29. It is occupied. Harold Phillips from Ruckersville owns that. But anyway, that would be my approach, would be to keep data centers out of here. There are lots of places that are appropriate for it and want it. I don't think it's good for Madison County.
Okay, anybody else? Thank you, Kim, as always. Alan, do you know is Tracy available?
I can see that she's online.
Yes,
I am.
Okay, we're going to move into the next section on tourism. Tracy, are you ready to guide us through it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Take it away.
Well, first, I would like to say thank you to the committee because, as the state says, economic development is indeed a team sport, and I'm very appreciative to everyone serving on this committee. And I'm sorry I'm not there, but I'm very sick and turns out contagious. So I didn't want to try to show up tonight. So I think the first slide I have is our spending and economic impact for 2023. And I was hoping they announced the state numbers, but we haven't gotten our individual numbers, and we won't get them probably till the end of the month. But as you can see, our visitor spending for 2023 was almost 23 million. And it's broken down, and the categories are transportation, food and beverage, lodging, recreation, and retail. And they break this down into direct spending and indirect spending. So the direct impact is the visitor spending in those categories: retail, entertainment, food and beverage, transportation, and lodging. The indirect impacts produce another almost $10 million. And they are each directly affected sector also purchases goods and services as inputs, such as food wholesalers, utilities, and production. These impacts are indirect impacts or supply chain effects. And then we have induced impacts, which basically means employees who work for those companies, directly or indirectly with other spending, spend those wages in the local economy. This is called the induced impact or income effect. And I think I didn't hear the question, but someone asked about other localities. So anyone can go onto the state's website. It's vatc.org. Basically stands for Virginia VA Tourism Corporation.org. You can do your own report and compare it to any county you'd like to compare it to in Virginia. And then if you want to look at the bottom right of that slide, it goes back to 2016. So going from 2016 to 2023, some very significant things happened. We had agritourism first. We had Ball Top, Revelation, Blue Quartz, Shotwell Run, Tap 29, all came about after that time period. And then we also had Airbnbs happen. If you look at the years between 2019 and 2020, our dip was much lower than other counties' dip. Would I like a hotel? I would love a hotel. But we didn't see a significant dip in our spending because we didn't have a hotel. We had Airbnbs. And then if you see that significant jump, that's most likely due to Airbnbs in 2021. So I'm curious to see what 2024 numbers bring. Sorry. Have to take another sip. Then the next slide, if anybody wants, I can send these to anybody that wants to. The next slide is just a little caption from a company called Arrivalist that I got a grant for that we have till October. And that just kind of gives you the average nights people spend almost 2 nights. I don't know how that works. And their share of day trips were down. I'm not sure why that is. But it just gives different reports and information about that. And then the following slide is basically broken down the regional excise data. And it lists meal taxes, and Mr. Daniel already gone over this, and the transient occupancy tax. It's important to note that when that was started, we estimated 50,000. So in some good news tonight, we have far surpassed our thought of what we thought our estimation was going to be. So I agree with what a lot of people are saying about how special we are. And they're right, and we already do promote Madison that way. And I was going to say, thanks to Mr. Rice for commenting on the old box and sunset building, because yes, that is occupied. So what I do is promote everything, all of our resources, brochures, digital, advertising, and data. That was brilliant. Asking AI, because that's perfect. But we talk about Old Rag being top 25 bucket list, mountain hiking in the world. Early Mountain has been named number one tasting room in America. We are home to the first summer White House before Camp David. So these are all the things we already do promote. And I'm about to go into another coffee. I'm going to put it on for a second. But I'm happy to answer any questions.
So I think Tracy said we had like unique 320 some Airbnbs. So essentially what she shared is we had one Airbnb per square mile of the county. Pretty interesting.
Sorry, the sound on my end went away.
You have anything else for us, Tracy?
That's about it. Apparently I can't talk anymore. Sorry.
That's fine. We just want to make sure you were still alive. So we'll check back with you later. Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate all the work you do for the county, because you do a significant amount of work for us. Any questions on tourism?
So, Robert Malone again. Agritourism. We're an agricultural county. I'm going to be going down to an event in Polyface Farm in Staunton, which is about regenerative farming. You can't hardly get into that place anymore. They sell out every single major event they have. And we don't have anything quite like that, and yet we are set for it. I've got film crews, I'm sorry, this is not bragging, I got film crews coming from all over the bloody world that want to film here in Madison County and on our farm and show the foothills and show how beautiful it is. The opportunity here for not just the hiker recreation type folks or the glamping, but agritourism is a huge opportunity that is just a perfect fit for us. And I'm so grateful that she's doing what she is, and that y'all are doing what you are doing in terms of trying to develop tourism as an industry here. I think it's got a lot of headroom, and I think it has got a perfect socket with the historic commitment both to our founding country and to our core values of agriculture, responsible. I noticed beef, it's what's for dinner. I'm all about, all the time we write about promoting grass-fed beef. Grass-fed beef, locally sourced agriculture, direct to farmer. That people are just crying out for that. They're desperate for it. It's Bobby Kennedy just did a big tour out in Idaho talking about exactly these kinds of issues. It's at the core of this Make America Healthy Again movement, which is the biggest new lobby in the United States right now. It's shaking everything up, and we're right in the center of it. We're sitting on an opportunity here, and as you know from the wineries, etc., those folks up in D.C. and Northern Virginia, they just love to come down here and choke up 29 on the weekend and enjoy the privileges of our beauty and our infrastructure. So I just strongly encourage that the county think hard about doing what it can to invest in agritourism and this intersection between our traditional agriculture sector and the tourism sector. I think it's our unique special advantage, and we ought to just drive at that. We ought to, as you were saying, promote Madison. You know, that facility is amazing. When I show pictures of that on social media, people go crazy. We're sitting right in the center of what gave rise to this country, and we ought to feature it, and we ought to capitalize on it. And that's what I have to say about that. Polyface Farm in Staunton, and it's internationally known now as a regenerative farm, such FACE. Yeah, Joel Salatin is a friend. He is internationally recognized as one of the key leaders. You know, if you want to, he can do everything from gut a chicken to just totally change how your irrigation practices are. He's a major guru all across the United States and the world right now, and we can do that too. People are crying out for that.
I was just wondering, Mr. Weekly, if you, I think one of those slides said that we have 1.7. Is that with the among the this, you know, and
That's doubled over the prior year.
yeah, we're a force for interest. So we've been in a lot of places where the Airbnbs are booked all the time. And again, if we just put the emphasis on that, just attracting people to what we have, we don't need to do, now we may, Al about, you know, we don't have to bring in more electricity. We don't have to bring in more water. Just let people know more what we do. You know, Nancy and I are always commenting, and my office is in Culpeper, so we're always commenting that the small businesses there close. That's losing them a ton of money. Down the street looking for a place to spend money. So anyway, I just was thinking of, okay, if it's 1.7 now, we're doing pretty good. Just increase it.
Definitely see a bump in that. We have some knowledge of short-term rentals in our board as well. So, yeah, any ideas of how to have more exposure? I would say, and I'm probably getting ahead to the conclusion, it's also about supporting what we have. It's very important here in Madison, whether that's the town or county, just really support what we have. So thank you for those ideas, because that's how we collectively come together to try to figure this thing out, as Chairman Jewett said. It's, there's some expenses and things coming before us, but how can we meet those needs without wholesaling the county, if you will?
Tracy, are you still on the line? Okay.
I am.
Awesome. Curious to know, I have a cousin who does paramedic work down outside of Atlanta, and the Georgia Film Office does amazing, it's like a mini Hollywood in Atlanta. I'm curious to know, what relationship do we have, or something that we could potentially look in your, I know, overwhelmed life, but the Virginia Film Office to promote film production in this area, benefiting the local businesses, piggybacking after Dr. Malone. Do we have a relationship with that office?
We absolutely do, and they have filmed movies here. As a matter of fact, Georgia, however, has the highest incentive program for them. That's why we don't see as much.
Is there
we're just
to build incentives?
That's a whole other question. That's a state level question.
Got it. All right. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Sir, Felix Shapiro has a comment, and he's online.
Oh, okay.
Hey everybody! I hope you can see me, or at the very least hear me. It's great to be with you guys today, and first and foremost, I want to say how much I appreciate that you all are having this forthright conversation about the fiscal realities facing Madison County. It is a hard conversation to have as a government body, but it is a necessary one, and one that localities across the country are grappling with right now. So you are not alone in your challenge, but perhaps are alone in the direct manner which you are addressing and investigating results. So that's to be lauded. I just wanted to say I totally agree with Madison County's characterization as heaven on earth. It is unique amongst localities in your region, and frankly amongst localities across Virginia. What you have is what the market wants. We are seeing wellness retreats blossom, field spas, other agritourism activities. I love the reference to Polyface Farms. I was out just this weekend at a place outside of Reverend Celeste Farms that has built a thriving business around sort of this blossoming tourism industry. I was interested in the earlier accounting of revenue streams, where I believe it said that the average Airbnb is yielding about $400 a year in revenue. I was shocked to see that number so low. When I run the projections on our six-room hotel, I see more than $50,000 a year coming into Madison County coffers as a result of our activities. I think that part of that is a testament to the value of scale. And I think one of the greatest challenges Madison County's tourism industry faces is a lack of lodging opportunities writ large. I think there is ample room for a substantial increase in the number of amenity providers, be that lodging, restaurateurs, and then the sorts of activities that our tourists are going to want to see during the day. And I think that there is ample opportunity for Madison County to court the right kind of development at the right scale that does not disrupt quality of life, but also drives revenue. I would personally love to be a part of it. I know that the investors I work with are chomping at the bit to make investments in areas like Madison County. But what they want to see is a receptive and willing community, one that is willing to work with them, one that is open to doing what needs to be done to make it happen, and where they will be warmly received. And so I laud this effort to make Madison as welcoming as possible for business and to head off any fiscal repercussions that come from not doing so. And appreciate anything I can do to be a sounding board or any other part of this process. Thank you all for having this conversation.
Thanks, Felix. Appreciate the comments. Any more? We want to move the meeting along, but I do want people to speak up. This is the opportunity for input for us. All right, we'll go ahead and move on to our next presentation, and that's our warehouse research. I believe that Mr. Weekly is going to handle that for us. So one of the, I won't say totally vacant building, but it was part to hear from the state firsthand that Townhall was basically downsizing. They kept their storefront space along the 29th. It was around, I believe, 107 jobs that went away across the location off Whitman Road. That is partially leased. Box in, box out operations there. There's a little over 200,000 square foot of warehouse space that has conveyors and things in it, and up to 60,000 square foot of space of office. It's a two-story facility. That's currently being marketed as leased space. Anytime that we get a lease from the state, whether it's from we have partnership with economic development or Virginia or any Virginia Economic Department, Virginia Economic Development Partnership, we search what's out there, what's available to let folks know. Townhall is one of those locations. Again, it's being, I guess you say, marketed as a lease, so that's a little different model than some things want to purchase it. So we did look at that. Amazon had put out an article, I forget the public post, probably about a month ago, about looking to get out in rural America. You'll see a map. I just went on Google Map somewhere later in the slide. But really, Amazon, they have fulfillment centers and warehouses, at least probably a dozen of those within 2 hours or less of Madison County. So they're into the 2-day service delivery right now. I feel like it's
we did put some, I would call informal feelers out to Amazon just to see if there was interest. But as you can see, well, just picture what the red dots are. You can throw that in the Google and see it yourself. But within 2 hours or less, there's about a dozen. So really, they don't feel the need at this time to cite a location match. They were appreciative that a locality was being proactive and, hey, we're seeing that you made it diversify. But at this time, we're not seeing that expansion. Go to the previous slide, please. All right, so what I would like to add, and yeah, go to the very last slide, please. All right, so what's next? So just because Amazon is a node right now doesn't mean there's not other things out there. Warehouse space or vacant space, whether it's the former Food World grocery store in town, Townhall Park. I'm glad to hear that the old waste factory is occupied. It can be used for R&D, any other type of logistics. Biolabs are very popular. I know a lot of those are more so geared at Research Park. So we will continue to explore. But as it was said here tonight about data centers, and it wasn't just about data centers this night, I saw a lot of buzz online. It's really about, let's explore things and what would the community get behind. We hear a lot of cases that come before the Planning Commission and the Board of Supervisors. And the beautiful part of it, you have a right to come speak about those, whether you support or not. But it needs to be more of a proactive approach. And I've said this to Mr. Jewett in private, and I'll say it in public. I really appreciate he and the remaining Board of Supervisors commissioning this committee. The county has done this probably on 2 other occasions. They've looked at, should industrial park, now I'm talking decades ago, but should industrial parks or business parks be located? But really, it's up to you all to tell us what can you support. I've heard here tonight, keep it the same. Taxes go up a little bit, okay. I've heard some that say, data centers, they're not noisy, they generate income. But really, it's up to you to help us spend our energy in where you would like it spent. We'll go research things all day long. But if it's things that you're not going to support, I would rather put energy into things that you would support or be open to the idea. And then it's about where do you want to see it located within the county. Route 29 is the corridor that the Board of Supervisors, through comp plans and through other designations, have said that is your growth area. And then lastly, if we're not aware of a business that's looking to expand, I know many of you, I've heard folks travel. Talk to your friends. We want to talk to them. We don't want to get caught up in our ordinances at this time, say this is prohibitive. If you have companies or corporations or ideas, bring it to this office. You can go see Alan. You can come see me. We're not hard to get in touch with. Kim knows my schedule better than I know my schedule. But we also want to make this, for new economic opportunity, but as well as those folks who are already located here. Is there a way we can highlight your business or be of assistance for your business? So, Mr. Jewett, nothing enlightening there, sir, but that's what I have, unless there are questions.
Oh, well, that was great. Any questions on the warehouses? Pardon? Oh, yeah, gentleman there. Kim.
Here, Mr. Malone.
So this isn't so much about warehouses specifically, but if you have open space. We heard all this talk from the Trump administration about wanting to move agencies out of town. Are we averse to taking business from the federal government in terms of citing employees or agency branches? Is that something we would consider?
Oh, that's a super good question. That's a super good question. I'm not sure. Does anybody want the federal government around? I'm not. It's an interesting question. I don't know whether that's feasible or not. I don't know what the government's plans are.
They got a lot of stuff going on down in Seaville. A lot of it's intelligence related or defense related. We're on that corridor.
Likewise, having had interns and teenage employees work for us with our horses. It's hard to find a good college around here. I mean, you have to commute. If you want to stay home in Madison, you can't. I mean, you've got to leave. There's very little, and trade schools are another thing that it's just missing in the United States, and that would just be something you also might consider is how to actually bring some sort of trade school to Madison.
Ma'am, that's actually something next on our radar. So a lot of things on our radar, but that's absolutely critical, and I think there'd be a good demand.
I was just talking to Jones this morning over at his car part shop. He's got all kinds of capabilities and know-how that are just rotting there, and he can't find an employee to save his life to do, even small engine repair. And this is where the job growth sector is right now. If you look at all the numbers, it's certainly not in high-profile, college-educated AI coders. It's in HVAC. It's in electrical. And those jobs are just crying for people, and they are a great fit for this kind of community where we got a lot of people that have been working on tractors and everything else for years. It just seems to me, I'm feeding off of what Jill said, education in the trades is something that we could make a feature, and that wouldn't be wrong for our community. It seems to me it'd be a decent fit. Over.
I would just add to that, I guess, 'cause growing up here, those are good jobs. My eldest is going to Nashville Diesel School in January. But what I would say is, what I worry about them for my kids is affordability to live here. So that kind of goes hand in hand with taxes and diversifying. So it is a challenge to have those jobs here.
So to your point, though, we're not talking about the jobs being here. We're talking about a trade school. Okay, so the trade school would be bringing the jobs, and I'm not so sure that you're right about, because we're surrounded by people who work in the trades and commute out, but they live here, and they're paying taxes here, and they have good jobs.
We're going to go ahead and move on to our section, and this is going to be more of a legalese type session, but this is something that is a sleeper in Virginia. We just had major changes come down from the General Assembly that have stripped a lot of local control over development. And Mr. Smith and the Planning Commission are working on remedies to try to mitigate some of those impacts that they'll have on the county. So, Mr. Smith, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Great, thank you. And the next slide, please. Thank you all for coming out. It's heartening to see this many people come out to get involved and help give us some direction. And obviously, economic growth is incredibly important. Most of the talk tonight has been on a microeconomic sense here in Madison. I'll get back to that, but there are a couple of macro things we need to be concerned about. When the committee was established, they decided that we needed to look through our ordinances to determine how business-friendly they were. We found two areas that really were caused significant concern. One was in dealing with the developmental impact from a numbers standpoint, and the other was dealing with home-based occupations. In the Planning Commission, we've had a couple of home-based occupations that have come before us. Our ordinances are woefully inadequate. That'll be the last thing I talk about. The next slide, please. I produced a white paper on the economic impact analysis in our development impact ordinance. Our development impact ordinance here is the only one I've been able to find in the Commonwealth. It's not good, but it's great because it's the only one. None of our neighboring localities have them. Planning for both physical impact analysis and economic impact analysis are really important for us. What a physical impact analysis would do is to look at the cost to government, which obviously are going to be costs to us, but we distribute those costs based upon the 8 different generally accepted accounting and generally accepted governmental standards of how costs are aggregated for budgeting. And to do a physical impact analysis, that's generally done on the basis of households. While we were doing this work, within days, the perfect storm hit. Senate Bill 974 was passed, and what Senate Bill 974 did was it took away any public input, any planning commission input, and any approval by the Board of Supervisors for residential development activities, and replace those for counties the size of Madison. I think it's 6,000 and lower. 5,000 and lower, that's which makes Surrey important. 5,000 and lower, you could still do it as is with your planning commission. But now we have what you're a designated authority now, is that what you are? Designated agent. So if a person has a plan for a subdivision, it does not go before the public for hearing. It goes straight to the designated agent. If the plan meets or lands on all fours in our ordinances, it gets approved. If the plan meets the conditions of the ordinance, it's approved. Now, what that means to us in the public input process in the past, the developer could get a handle on how the public was thinking about it, what kind of costs were going to be incurred by the locality, and would come through with proffers. Virginia is a proffer state. We cannot solicit proffers, but we can certainly accept them if the developer offers them. And a proffer could be paying for a school bus if you were going to cause an increase in infrastructure of the schools. It could be paying for any number of things, lighting, street improvements in the subdivision itself. We are not a impact fee state. There are a few localities that can have impact fees, but those are localities that do their own road work. Some of the West Coast cities, for example, are great impact fees, but Petula, California, their impact fee ordinance is 320 pages. That's not a large town. So there's no way we want to be an impact fee statement where you could charge those. We really like to be a proffer jurisdiction, but that's gone. So if a developer comes in and the development that he's proposing results in a burden on the infrastructure of the county, then that's the same as not allowing us to go through the process and solicit or have proffers offered. That results in a tax increase because the citizens are going to have to pay the shortfall. So that brought us on. We're working on ordinances, and the ordinances would require, or the proposed ordinance would require, that as a condition precedent to filing a plan, that there would have to be a net positive benefit or no more than a zero benefit for a combined fiscal and economic impact analysis. We're a Dillon rule state, so that might present problems, but we're working on the ins and outs of seeing what we can do on that. But I would point out that this new bill became effective July 1 this year. Surrey County, its population 6,000, it's about half the size of Madison, had a development that was being considered by the Planning Commission. I think that the initial development was for 32 houses. It was negotiated down to 28. It was coming up for a vote. The developer pulled the plan, said, I'll come back after July 1 and go back to my original number. So, as predicted, that's exactly how this new bill will work. We're working on what we can do with the legislature to see if they can repeal it or otherwise provide for some public hearing. Next slide. In our proposal, we would require that there would be some, hopefully, not a negative hit to the county, but some benefit. And anything that we do certainly must, as Chairman Jewett mentioned earlier, support our 2025 comp plan. And the 2025 comprehensive plan is all over agritourism. As the Doctors Malone indicated, that is certainly, from the first economic development activity I did with the county, it was clear that the path to success was have people come in, spend their money, and leave. We did not want the hit of additional housing because that's a hit on the schools, hit on public safety, hit on everything else. And we want to avoid initiatives that would result in the expansion of unreimbursed costs. And that was sort of code to have us be able to have proffers and work things out. And the next slide, we'll see that segregation of costs I talked about. If you have the opportunity to come see the budget process here, it's several years ago, they started with meat cleavers. This year, they're down to scalpels. And I would imagine robotic microsurgery comes next because they are cutting on the bone right now. But we have a $52 million plus total budget, and we aggregated it into these different functions that are common throughout the country. About everybody does their budget this way. The numbers we're using, thanks to the Commission on Revenue and our budgetary folks, are 2025 numbers. And we see that this would be the basis for any fiscal impact analysis. It's nothing new. They've been done since the 1970s. They're done either on the basis of average costing or marginal costing being what the next unit will actually cost government, average assuming that any new addition will cost just what the average is, so that would be the burden. It's a lot easier just for purposes of this discussion to talk about average cost, so that's what we'll do. So the $52 million, the budget size, the next step, if we see in the next slide, is to see how we're going to fund it. Well, as you've heard, we're funded through a three-party approach. The feds provided about 8.5%, state 37.5%, and the locality 54.3%. But those numbers are a little bit misleading, or can be. Virginia receives 21% of its funding from the feds. And I think as far as what we found out from DOGE, that we are the #2 state for employees in the United States. So as the cutbacks hit, Virginia will presumably be hit among the largest. But if we look at the 21% of the state funding from the feds and trickle that down, that says that Madison has 16.32% of its monies coming from the feds. That's a scary number. From 15 years ago, former business partner of mine, Dave Walker, when he was controller of the currency, first reported in the MD&A, it's a management discussion and analysis, you find it in all financial statements, says that the current spending of the federal government is unsustainable. And that has been said in each and every annual report since then, and only recently has anybody decided to do something about it. And thus comes Elon Musk and his brain trust, and they've done some phenomenal work. But we're all going to pay the price. If we look at the next slide, that's just, I'm sorry, you can't, there's no way you can read it. If you can, I want to see what vitamins you're taking. But we look from 2008 through 2025 of the federal budget awards to the Commonwealth. It started out $50.5 billion. That's an important number. It ends up 2025 at $247.2 billion. And the scary thing, if you look at the last 2 years, that $24.7 billion in 2025 is twice what it was in 2024. So if the Fed's money comes to the state institutes programs and funds them, and then all of a sudden the Fed money dries up, are the states going to defund the programs? Absolutely. Are the states going to dispose of the programs or abandon the programs? Likely not. We've seen what they can do in their unfunded mandates. And, for example, Senate Bill 974. we're stuck with the bills. And if it doesn't result in an expenditure to the state, then there's no such thing as an unfunded mandate, because they're funded at the state level and we're on our own. If we look at the next slide, it's just a summary, and I don't want to end this by, Jim said he started out and maybe make you a little bit uncomfortable or perhaps depressed. I don't want to go all the way to being despotic and even worse with this. But if we look down in Madison, we've got 5,212 households. If we divide our local contribution to the budget by the 5,212, we see that the household share of the local contribution is $5,400. And the average tax, Jim's numbers and my numbers would differ somewhat because of the different bases, but if we look at an average household or an average tax per household in 1911, there's a shortfall per household. So the key to our economic woes is not to add more houses. Adding houses is a loser. And I don't care what real estate developers tell you, they gain, they leave, we lose. We get holding the bill. They don't have to pay for the education of the kids, the fire, all the other 8 categories of government that were listed in an earlier slide. And the reason the number is a little bit different is that if we, our Commission of the Revenue found that we've got about $10 million in residential taxes in our tax mix, and that $10 million, he did a search just for every roof under which there were people that lived. So that's not exactly what other numbers would be using. It's probably a little bit more precise than what other numbers you get. But it's not dystopian, but at least we need to be aware of, this is why we're here tonight, why we're looking for ways to contribute to this shortfall. And tourism, we're on all fours with you. Our comprehensive plan is replete with suggestions that we have tourism. I think there are, 12 different references specifically to agritourism. On infrastructure concerns, we just went through those, what the issues are on them. I told you about Surrey County, what happened to them. The last thing that we looked at are home-based businesses. And our ordinances are not exactly welcoming. You lose a lot of terms that everybody knows what they mean, but nobody knows what they mean. They're not defined. We've had really fits on going through some of this. Let's go to the next slide. I said there are a lot of ambiguities in the definition about what's a building, what's a dwelling, what's a home, what are employees, are owners employees? No, they're not. Are owners of LLCs employees? No, they're not. Can LLCs apply for this? No. LLCs aren't persons living in businesses, so we've got to fix it. It became clear when I was looking through it that the startups such as Apple and HP and Amazon and Google and Yankee Candle Company could not have got their start in Madison. Our codes would have prevented it. We've got to fix that. So we need to make the ordinances look like a plan that contemplates home locations that we want to encourage, and we want to recognize the individual freedom, economic freedom that we all should possess, while recognizing that our rights end where mine end, where yours began. So, but that kind of tension can be dealt with, and we just need to take it on, and that's what we're doing. And with that, and we had if you have homegrown businesses or a home business, I need to hear from you because there's some things that we need to know. For example, if you're a farmer and you put up fences and you get tired of putting up fences for miles on end and you find a better way to put up a fence, you can hire 3 people in your home business to go out and put up fences, but if you start manufacturing a pneumatic device to pound a fence post, then you might be running afoul of our ordinances. That's wrong. That is wrong. So we need to fix those kind of things, and that's what we'll be looking at. Huh? Well, no, it should be contemplated in the ordinance. That's right. I am all done. No,
Okay.
I've just started, but all done tonight.
Any questions? Any questions for Mr. Smith regarding the ordinances? Unfortunately, there's more bills in the pipeline that are following along the lines of removing local control. And they didn't make it through this time, but they may very well make it through next time. Okay, that really is, those are the different module areas. General comments or questions before Mr. Buchanan closes the presentation? None? Thank you. We got to do one more set of PowerPoints. Our chair loves PowerPoint.
All right, where do we go from here, folks?
Keep going.
All right, so we're going to keep pursuing manufacturing leads. Expanded tourism, we're driving for that as well. We'll continue to monitor the data center opportunities, especially the edge, just to see where that might go, but it's up to you folks. Upgrading our wastewater treatment plan by 2027, which would help businesses that move here be able to stay here. Targeting capacity to help with economic development along Route 29 corridor. All those things we're going to be working on, but really, our committee is open to the public. And tonight, I heard so many great ideas from you all. We all heard these great ideas. And we need those ideas. We're sitting here with 5, 6 of us, and we're coming up with great ideas too, but man, there's 14,000 people in this county, and we could use some help. So come to our meetings, they're open to everybody. Share your ideas, suggestions that align with our county's vision and comprehensive plan. We encourage you, my thunder is stolen a little bit, to talk to your contacts outside the county. I wasn't from here. I have lots of contacts that I've talked to, coming up with ideas. I know you all have people out there. Help them come to Madison and see what we see and start these type of businesses that are going to fit in to our county. So with that, I want to thank you all for coming and really appreciate this. This is bigger than and better than I thought it was going to be. So thank you.
Okay, any comments from the committee? May I entertain a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Mr. Chairman, back to you.
Thank you to the Economic Development Committee and all their members. Anybody have any general Madison County questions? Just general questions? I know we had a good, fun meeting last Wednesday. We all enjoyed. Covered a lot of the topics, but economic development is something that we're all looking at on this board, and then trying to balance it off with quality of life, and it's a fine line to walk. Any public comment? Any public comment? All right, what would y'all like to do?
Move to adjourn.
Second. Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you all for coming.